A hand over a donate box, fingers won't open. Inside them, a chipped, faded thing worth almost nothing. Same hand, minutes later, snapping it back to the chest before a single thought arrives. Why can't you drop it? You know this box. You've stood over one, unable to release a single faded shirt from 10 years ago. Look at the object in your hand. A stranger would bin it without blinking. To them, it's junk. To you, it's almost unbearable to let go. The market price is near zero. The felt price is enormous. And that gap, that strange gap between what a thing is worth and what it does to you, is what the next few minutes are going to explain. Here's what I can promise you. By the end of this, you're going to look at that unthrowable drawer in your own home completely differently. You'll know exactly what's happening inside you when your fingers refuse to open. And it's much stranger and much kinder than you think. If you don't want to keep missing why you do things like this, subscribe. Let's start with the thing nobody tells you. You don't get attached to an object because of what it is. You get attached the instant a quiet part of your brain files it under one small word. Mine. And that word does something physical. The moment your brain tags a thing as yours, it stops treating it like an object out in the world. It links it to your sense of who you are. Picture a thin, glowing thread running from your chest into the thing you're holding. Once that thread is attached, the object isn't just near you. It's part of the system that is you. This isn't a metaphor pretending to be science. When people lie in a brain scanner and think about their own possessions, self-related regions light up, areas like the medial prefrontal cortex, the same regions that fire when you think about yourself. Thinking about your stuff and thinking about you start to look like the same activity. So the value doesn't create the bond. The bond creates the value. Identity comes first, and worth follows behind it. And this happens shockingly fast. Later in this, I'm going to show you a plain coffee mug that roughly doubles in value about 20 minutes after being handed to someone. No memories, no history, just 20 minutes and the word mine. Hold on to that, because it's about to break an assumption you didn't know you had. Here's a small experiment. Someone hands you two identical items, chosen at random. Same shape, same color, same everything. One goes into your hands, the other stays on the table. Then they ask which you prefer. Almost instantly, you point to yours, the one you're holding, the one that became yours 10 seconds ago. This is called the mere ownership effect. Simply owning a thing, or even just touching it, or even just imagining that you own it, makes you rate it as more attractive and more yours. And there are no memories doing this work. Nothing happened between you and that item. There was no shared history to earn the preference. An accident of assignment created it, out of nothing, in seconds. Now sit with how odd that is, because it collides head-on with the story we all tell ourselves. We believe attachment is earned. We think you love the old thing because of the years, the birthdays it saw, the trips it survived, the person who gave it to you. We imagine the sentiment slowly soaking into the object, memory by memory like water into a sponge, until one day it's saturated with meaning and impossible to throw away. That story feels obviously true. And these two identical mugs, one of them preferred for no reason at all, are the first crack in it. Because if attachment needs years of memories, how did it show up in 10 seconds with a thing you'd never seen before? To answer that, people reached for an explanation about money and pain. And for a long time, it went like this. You overvalue your things because giving them up feels like a loss, and losses hurt. Simple. It's about fear of losing value. But there's a problem hiding in the original experiments, and it took years for anyone to notice it. When you make someone a seller and ask what they'd charge, you haven't just measured their fear of a loss, you've also made them an owner. Those two things got tangled together. Being a seller and being an owner were quietly measured as if they were the same. And they aren't. Pull them apart, and a different, warmer explanation appears. The deeper driver isn't the price tag at all. It's that the object has been woven into your self-concept. You can actually measure this. People form mental links between themselves and their owned objects faster than with things that aren't theirs, and again, those self-referential brain regions get involved, which changes the whole feeling of the story. It's not that you're afraid to lose a bit of money value, it's that you're afraid to lose a piece of yourself. And that reframe is exactly what the money explanation could never account for. It can't explain a grandparent's watch. It can't explain why the copy won't do. Now watch the moment it all becomes visible. Someone offers our friend a swap. A fair one. A generous one. More than the worn little object is worth by any honest measure. An open palm, a fan of banknotes, a genuinely good deal. And before a single reasonable thought can form, the arms snap the object inward. Pulled to the chest, a beat of silence. Then a confused look on their own face, because their body decided before their mind was even invited. They didn't reason their way to know. The flinch got there first. Here's why. Once a thing is yours, giving it up doesn't register as failing to gain something. It registers as losing something. And losses feel heavier than equal gains, roughly twice as heavy. A stubbed toe outweighs finding a coin of the same size. So you demand far more to let it go than you'd ever pay to get it. The object hasn't changed at all. Only its position on your pain and pleasure ledger moved. This is where that coffee mug finally earns its place. In 1990, 3 researchers, Kahneman, Knetsch and Thaler, ran a now famous study. 3 groups on a campus. Owners who were handed a mug, buyers who could purchase one, and a third group of choosers. The owners asked what they'd sell for, demanded roughly 2 to 2.5 times what the buyers were willing to pay. Same mug, same afternoon. The only difference was the word mine, and the shift appeared within the session, about 20 minutes after the mug was placed in someone's hands. Faster than a hot coffee cools to drinkable, long before any memory could possibly form. So here is the flip. Attachment isn't slowly earned by history. It's manufactured almost instantly by ownership itself. The word mine trips a switch, and it's a one-way turnstile. Value flows up the moment you pass through, and it won't easily reverse. Memory doesn't cause the bond. Memory just decorates a bond that ownership already built in minutes. That's the worthless versus expensive puzzle from the start. Solved. The old thing you can't part with had time to get thoroughly filed under me. The thing you bought last week is still just a thing, but if it's really all about you, we've got one more mystery to explain. Because some objects don't feel like they're carrying you, they feel like they're carrying someone else. We do something almost magical with certain objects. We treat them as if they hold the invisible essence of a person, or of the past. Not the memory of them, the essence. As if a bit of the actual person soaked into the material and stayed there, like the warmth of a hand lingering in a glove long after the hand is gone. You can catch this instinct forming early. Children as young as 3 to 6, before most of them can reliably tie their own shoes, will reject a supposedly perfect copy of their favorite toy. Offer a flawless duplicate, identical down to the last stitch, and they don't want it. They want their one, the original. Adults do the same, just with more money and more grief. People pay enormous sums for an ordinary object simply because a famous person once wore it. And almost nobody will trade an heirloom for an identical replacement, even a better one. Picture our friend in an attic, lifting a departed grandparent's watch out of a shoebox. For a second, the grandparent feels present in the room, folded into that small metal thing. And that's why a copy could never work. It's the missing piece of your keepsake question. Every instinct screams no to the perfect duplicate, not because anything real lives in the atoms. Nothing does. The memories live in you. The watch is a cue, a symbol, a doorway. The copy fails because it doesn't feel like it carries the essence, and essence was never something you could manufacture. So the bond isn't only about you anymore. It's become one of the main ways we keep hold of people we've lost. Now zoom out, all the way out, and look at everything you own at once. Psychologists have a name for this. They call your possessions an extended self, external storage for your identity. The things around you aren't separate from who you are. They're who you are, kept outside your body, on shelves and in drawers. And this reaches down to the smallest, strangest details. Even the letters in your own name feel more attractive to you than other letters. It's called the name letter effect, first spotted in a Belgian classroom in 1985, then found again across more than 12 languages and several alphabets. Your own initials pull at you like a coin subtly weighted to land your way. That's how deep the pull toward mine runs. It reaches all the way into the alphabet. It works upward, too. Holding a tool that fits a shaky part of who you are can genuinely lift your sense of what you're capable of. The object props up the self. So look again at your cluttered room, that wide shot of stuff you've been faintly ashamed of. Imagine every object gently labeled. Brave. Funny. The person I used to be. The person I'm trying to become. It isn't greed. It isn't a hoard. It's a scattered self-portrait. A map of who you think you are, laid out across the furniture. And this whole capacity, this ability to pour yourself into objects, you didn't invent it as an adult. You rehearsed it as a baby. In 1953, a doctor named Winnicott gave it a name. The transitional object, a child's first not-me possession. The blanket. The worn teddy. The specific, irreplaceable, slightly disgusting scrap of fabric. Here's what it's actually for. It's a docking station for a caregiver's comfort. When the parent leaves the room, the child can hold the blanket and run the soothing program on their own, bridging the terrifying gap of being alone. It's how a small person first practices carrying love in their pocket. Roughly half of Western preschoolers form a bond like this. Studies range from about a fifth to 3/4, so somewhere between 1 and 4 kids in any group of 5. Common, but not universal. And that word matters, because this isn't purely hardwired into every human. Some isolated egalitarian societies show little of this overvaluing of possessions at all, which means mine equals more is partly learned. It's a psychological fingerprint of how we grow up, not a physical law of the universe. But if your culture taught you this program in the crib, you never really stopped running it. The adult reaching for a lucky charm before something scary. The person who can't bin a worn hoodie. That's the same ancient soothing program that once got them to sleep without a parent in the room. It's not a flaw. It's one of the first grown-up things you ever learned to do. So what do you actually do with all this? Here's the useful part. Since value tracks the mine tag, and not the object itself, you can work with the mechanism instead of fighting it. You can decide, on purpose, what stays wired to you. Keep the few things that genuinely carry identity or love. Those threads are real and worth honoring. But for everything else, you can deliberately loosen the tag. Shift from an ownership mindset into an exchange mindset, just seeing the thing as a thing again. This is exactly the trick real estate agents use when they tell sellers to depersonalize before a viewing. Strip the mine off it, and it lets go easier. And here's the gentlest move of all. When an object genuinely matters, name why. Say out loud, or write down, what it's holding for you. Because once you've named the meaning, you can keep the meaning even after the thing is gone. The junk drawer of dead phones and single earrings. The free trial wish list that already feels like yours before you've paid a cent. The toddler howling for the exact right blanket. All of it, the same machinery. And now you can see it working. So watch our friend back at the donate box. This time they pick up one object, photograph it, write a small note about what it meant. Then they place it in the box with a quiet smile. The thread doesn't snap. It just gets untied on purpose. Because the memory was never inside the object. It was always inside them. And that answers the last question, the one from the very beginning. Why did that worthless old thing feel more like a part of you than something you paid good money for? Because at some point, without asking permission, your brain quietly filed it under me. That drawer of things you can't throw away isn't clutter. It's the touchable outer edge of your own self, and of every person you've ever loved, made solid enough to hold. You were never really holding the objects. You were holding the parts of you they were keeping safe.